Okay, so for the history origin of the country. So the history of ancient Egypt spans the period from the early prehistoric elements of the northern Nile Valley to the Roman conquest of Egypt in 30 BC. The pharaonic period, the period in which Egypt, so the period in which Egypt was ruled by Pharaoh is dated from the 32nd century BC when Upper and Lower Egypt were unified until the country fell under Macedonian rule in 332 BC. So history, Egypt history is divided into 6 different time periods: Old Kingdom, First Intermediate Period, Middle Kingdom. So the second intermediate period, New Kingdom, and the third intermediate period, the Kingdom periods. Kingdom period. So were times of peace and prosperity, plenty of food was harvested, and things were basically good. Intermediate periods were times when Egypt was invaded, experienced civil war. So civil bad food harvest or other difficult times. Historians call the time period before the Old Kingdom the early dynastic period. During this time, the first Pharaoh Narmer started the tradition of passing power to members of his family. So usually the son quitting Egypt first dynasty. So he defeated some enemies and united Upper and Lower Egypt into one civilization. Egyptians didn't build pyramids during this time, but they did build a burial building called mastaba. A mastaba has a flat roof similar to the base of a pyramid. So without top, the building of a mastaba clearly lead to the building of pyramids during the Old Kingdom. That's all. Okay, so the language usage of the Egyptian. So the official language of Egypt is use Arabic language, and more Egyptian speak one of several vernacular dialects of the language. So as is the case in other Arab countries, the spoken vernacular differs greatly from the literary language. Modern literary Arabic, often called Modern Standard Arabic or Al-Fawza, Clear Arabic, so it's developed out of classical medieval Arabic, is learned only in school and is the language franca of educated persons throughout the Arab world. So the grammar and syntax of the literary form of the language have remained substantially unchanged since the 17th century, but in other ways it has transformed in recent countries. So the modern forms of style were word sequence and phraseology are simpler and more flexible than the in classical Arabic and are often directly derivative of English of France. And
So for the literary work that is known in Egypt is the legend of Isis and Osiris. So this one is the best known myths in ancient Egypt. It concerns the murder of god Osiris by his brother Set, aka Set, in order for him to take over the throne. Isis, on Osiris' wife, later collects her husband's body and revives it in order to have a son with him. The rest of the story focuses on how Horus, Isis, and Osiris' son becomes his uncle competitor to the throne and how he backs and how he takes it back. So the story is one of the most important in ancient Egypt for religious symbolism and strong sense of family, loyalty, and devotion. For its importance, some parts of the story appear on the ancient Egyptian texts such as short stories, magical spells, and funeral texts. And for the famous tourist spot in Egypt is the pyramids of Giza. So historians continue to debate about the ancient Egyptians' use of the pyramid form of the royal tombs and Giza and funerary sites elsewhere. So the pyramid of Giza are mostly solid masses of stone with very little to be found inside. So contrary to one might expect, there are no hieroglyphic texts, treasures, or mummies in any pyramids of Giza. The interiors of all pyramids of Giza are open to visitors or tourists, but each requires to buy separate ticket. Although tourist spots were once able to freely climb the pyramids, that is now illegal. Offender may face up to 3 years in prison as penalty. In 2016, a teenage tourist was banned from visiting Egypt for life after posting photos and videos on social media of his illicit.
So the best cuisine here in Egypt is the full medamis and the kushari. Full medamis is a stew of cooked fava beans served with vegetable oil, cumin, and optionally with chopped parsley, garlic, onion, lemon juice, chili pepper, and other vegetable, herb, and spice ingredients. Full medamis are traditionally made in and served out of large metal jug. Kushari is widely considered as Egypt's national dish. It is cooked with rice, lentils, black or brown, chickpeas, and pasta are cooked individually, then tossed together and topped with cumin-scented tomato sauce and crunchy fried onions. So, that's all for the country Egypt. Thank you and goodbye.
I've been drinking all this lean, I know I need to stop. Hopping out of stolen cars and we shoot chops.